about economic issues. So she'll have to defend that, and it will have to be, to your point, Laura, it'll have to be credible. And we got about 11 minutes to see what's going to happen here.
Sean, final word before we bounce here before the debate?
Well, I would respond gently to my friend Harold and say she's not just separating herself from Joe Biden. She's got to separate herself from herself here. She's the one that said no fracking. She's the one that said no drilling.
We back.
In August of 23
we back.
said,
We back.
We call that Bidenomics.
About to start.
We're proud of it.
We back.
And
we back.
Most
Come through.
As Laura rightly
Kick it with
out,
me.
You know, every store they go to, the price they pay for.
We got 11 minutes. 10 minutes.
So I think that debating
our boy Trump about to go live.
Is maybe a bigger challenge than separating herself
Let me get
from
where
Joe
I'm
Biden.
gonna get, so I can put the TV
Sean
on.
will be checking in right after.
Let me get where I can get.
Thanks a lot from the
Put the TV on.
Now we're just minutes away from the big beginning of this debate tonight. The presidential debate is about to kick off in Philadelphia. Pennsylvania may be the most important state in the nation when it comes to this election. The keys to victory for
let me get position. Let me get position. Let me get position. Let's go. What up, Florida? Let's go. Trump 2024. No Democrats. I don't want no Democrats. I done made people moderators. If you've been here before and you want to be a moderator, tell me. I don't want to see one Democrat. God dang it. The one thing I don't want to see.
In the affirmative, and the bill is passed.
Economists said Harris's vote led directly to the higher prices.
Dang, did I just break this?
22% more for groceries.
Oh.
50% more for gas.
No, I didn't break it.
Costs nearly double.
That's Kamala.
Trump had our economy humming.
Yep.
Again.
Yep. Trump 2024.
It's a good day to start something new. To brush away gray in 5 easy minutes.
I'll fix this.
To put yourself out there and always put your best face forward. Just for men, mustache, and beard.
We're building something real big. What do you know about winning the turbine?
Man, did I break my thing? Man, it's all right. We'll hold it. Kamala, yeah. Let me put this duel on. Let's get it on. I ain't broke the so no Harris talk, none. I don't want to hear a word about Harris. This is a Trump only live. Let me switch it. There we go. I'm gonna have volume up, everything. I broke my. How I break this thing?
Dangerous ladders, gutter muck. Yeah. No wonder you hate cleaning your gutters.
Oh, sorry.
Our patented filter technology keeps leaves and debris out of your gutters forever.
Black Californian voting for Trump. That a boy. Or girl. What channel am I watching? Fox.
Answer all of our questions. They really put us at ease.
Unclog gutters for good. Call 833 Leaf Filter or visit leaffilter.com today.
I got this $1,000 camera for only $41 on DealDash. DealDash.com. Online auction since 2000.
Man, I really wish I had this stand going. Sorry. I'm trying to figure out how I can get this tripod back up.
I got this KitchenAid stand mixer for only $56. I got this barbecue smoker for $26.
How I get this bag?
And shipping is always free. Go to DealDash.com right now and see how.
Look, Democrats is ruining my life.
When things go sideways, will you be prepared? I want to introduce you to the Patriot Power Generator 2000X. Use the endless free power of the sun to power lights, your TV, medical equipment, even run your phone.
All right, here we go.
Gas, fumes, or noise.
Can't wait till this election over. I got the debate on now.
Free. Double the capacity, expandable for more power.
I'm gonna turn it up in a minute. 6 minutes.
This is about peace of mind.
No Democrats though. I don't want to see one Democrat on here. You a Democrat? This ain't your life.
We are just moments away from tonight's presidential debate. Aisha Hasni has the latest tonight from the spin room in Philadelphia. Hi, Aisha.
Hi, Brian. The spin room is getting very busy. You can see behind me over my shoulder, that's a big old gavel surrounding Governor Gavin Newsom.
Gavin Newsom, one of the worst presidents or worst governors in history.
A few times, whether he was worried about Michigan because he has to stay on the ballot there now. If that was going to hurt the former president, he did not want to answer that question. Let's talk about the former president and how he's feeling as he walks onto the debate stage tonight. I am told by
You're on Newsmax.
cool, calm, collected, and the strategy tonight,
Yeah, I
Brett,
can't
is
wait.
to try to force Kamala Harris to own up to all of these failed policies in their minds for the past 4 years. He's going to try to make that happen tonight on the stage. Brett.
All right, Aisha, thank you.
All right, let's bring in Kellyanne Conway and Jessica Tarlov. Kellyanne, if you could say one thing to former President Trump right now, he's minutes away from walking on that stage, what would it be?
You're fighting for the American people. You're not fighting with Kamala Harris. Treat her like a worthy opponent.
Nah, don't treat her like nothing. Treat her like she is. You know what she's used to. Treat her like she's used to.
So don't worry about how Harris.
Treat her like she's used to. Don't treat her with kids' gloves.
Okay, Jessica, same question to you. You have one thing to say to Vice President Harris before this debate. She's watching. I know she is.
Yeah, nothing. Nothing. Mute her. Oh, that was me.
They want to hear about foreign policy.
That was me.
An economic plan. They don't want the name calling, the tit for tat. Maybe they don't even want to hear that much about how you were a prosecutor or he was convicted.
That was me. My fault.
Just do
I thought she was mute.
That Pennsylvania voter.
Yo, thank you for that gift.
Be polite and hopefully
Let's
Trump
go.
will do the same, and
I thought that was a TV. I thought she didn't want to speak.
Kellyanne, what about the state of the race? You ran the race at one point.
Yo, Trump 2024, put it in. Hashtag, put the American flag. We don't want to see no Democrats. No Democrats.
He's doing better than he did in 2016.
You can mute her? Yeah, I didn't want to hear what she had to
On
say.
this day in 2020,
Let me see if I can move myself. Oh, I can.
Against Joe
All right, there we
Biden
go.
nationally, and against Hillary about 2.8%. Pennsylvania's always been tight. The reason we made it a reach state in 2016 and kept going back there with Trump and other surrogates is because the messages that we're winning in Ohio and Iowa, two states that
No, 9 o'clock. 2 minutes and 48 seconds. 6 seconds. You need a tripod? Man, I broke the tripod. I don't know where the piece went. And I don't know how to put it back together.
Specific industries,
Maybe I could put it like this.
Coal, mining,
Let me try.
construction. And so fracking, of course, and he was able to speak to them. We had a strategy. Can't eliminate the deficits for the Republican candidate in those collar counties around Philadelphia. But
Let me try to fix this tripod.
And then you run up the score in Western Pennsylvania and some other pockets. My advice to Kamala Harris is show up. I think Trump and Vance have really tightened up their swing state schedule, and they're going to basically live in Pennsylvania. And she's got to follow suit, or they're going to run away with this.
Yeah, right. They're going to run away with it anyway.
We'll go around the horn here.
Yeah, I want to bring Dana in. Dana, one of the structures here is that they're not allowed to ask each other questions. So if either of these candidates wants to get something in that they're not being asked, it's going to be tricky for them to get there.
I don't know if it's true, but Brian Stelter of CNN just tweeted that it is possible that ABC will open up the mics if there's a big moment. So I don't know what the rules are and how they're going to do it.
All right, I got my tripod back.
She has been paying the price for being so far left 4 years ago. She's still paying that today. But she has a cash advantage right now, and it could work.
Jesse?
She ain't got no advantage.
Well, decriminalizing heroin and giving voting rights to serial rapists.
Yeah.
In any normal race,
talk that talk.
Shouldn't be the nominee, but she is.
Talk that talk.
And so Donald Trump's going to have to put her on defense. But
talk that
speak
talk.
Poetically about the restoration of the American dream. Make
yes,
sure you
America.
Can buy a house. Make sure you can have a family.
Yeah, stuff she don't know about. In third world countries, they don't know about this stuff.
Fast under her.
Yeah.
And he needs to put that within reach again.
She ain't got no card.
Harold,
she ain't American.
She's had slippage is with independent voters, some black voters, Latino voters. What does she do to get them back in her
She ain't getting them back.
Talk about the future.
Yeah. You think I'm going to shut up the whole debate?
She will govern it may be a little different than what we've seen over the last 3.5 years.
You know I ain't going to shut up the whole debate.
And talk about how you're going to get better. And
yeah, I'm a
better
comment.
and contrast it with the guys.
This ain't the channel. If you think I'm going to shut up during the debate, you don't know me.
You look at real median household income today than they did in December of 2019 before the pandemic.
You think I'm going to shut up? That's
The story of this
wild.
election is the economy. People's pocketbooks are not as
Yeah,
full.
You, Mandy G, thank you.
They want hope for the future, to Harold's point.
Where's he at? I thought I had moderators in here. Let me get him out of here.
Test for ABC News as well.
Let me get them out of here. They keep spamming. Yeah, no spamming. No Democrats and no spamming.
It's been subject to a lot of criticism. Some of that.
And hit the screen.
Perhaps it'll take a crack.
This is the live I've been waiting to do.
And answering some of the doubts about it.
We're going to find out now.
Yeah. I already blocked them. Don't worry about it. Let's go. Let's go. It's like a football game.
It is a face-off in Philadelphia. Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Trump about to take the debate stage at the National Constitution Center.
Let's go.
A critical moment in this race for the White House. Just 2 months before Election Day in America. Good evening, everybody. I'm Martha McCallum.
And I'm Brett Baer. The ABC News presidential debate begins in just moments. Thank you for watching here on Fox News. The performances tonight could really be the difference between winning and losing.
Better than a football game. Yeah, more at stake. More at stake.
Stay with us for the post-game analysis and reaction.
Yeah, more at stake.
Then Sean Hannity takes over.
I'm gonna give it a little bit of this. I'll give it a little bit of that.
Philadelphia now. And
they talk too much. Let's get to Trump.
Right here on Fox, post-analysis. After, keep it here.
Let's go.
Good evening, I'm David Muir.
I hate David Muir.
ABC News presidential debate. We want to welcome viewers watching on ABC and around the world tonight. Vice President
Yo, you can't talk. You're a Democrat. Why are you talking to me? No Democrats.
And I'm Lindsay Davis. Tonight's meeting could be the most consequential event of their campaigns, with Election Day now less than 2 months away. For Vice President Kamala Harris, this is her first debate since President Biden withdrew from the race on July 21st. Of course, that decision followed his debate against President Donald Trump in June. Since then,
I need another mod, yeah. But it got to be somebody that subscribed. Well, I followed you back. I got you. You can be a mod. There you go. Mandy, you can be a mod. Thank you.
The candidates will have 2 minutes to answer questions. And
who else want to be a mod?
That's what they'll be seeing. 2 minutes for rebuttals and 1 minute for follow-ups.
Let's go. I can't wait to hear them. Trump, put her in her place.
Only be turned on when it's their turn to speak. No pre-written notes allowed.
No notes.
Tonight in this hall at the National Constitution Center. This is an intimate setting for two candidates who have never met.
President Trump won the coin toss. He chose to deliver the final closing statement.
Yeah, it'll be the last.
President Harris selected the podium to the right.
So let's now
the right. Look how short it is.
Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump.
Let's go. Man, look at her. Don't shake her hand. Don't shake her hand. Don't shake her hand.
It's a good debate. Thank you.
Don't shake her hand, man. I wouldn't have shook her hand.
It's wonderful to have you. It's an honor to have you both here tonight.
Good evening. We are looking forward to a spirit.
Why'd he shake her hand, though? Don't touch her.
I want to begin tonight with the issue that voters repeatedly say is their number one
Let's
issue.
Go.
That is the economy and the cost of living in this country. Vice President Harris, you and President Trump were elected 4 years ago, and your opponent on the stage here tonight often asks his supporters, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
Let me hear it.
So I was...
shut up!
And I am actually the only person on this stage who has a plan that is about lifting up the middle class and working people.
Oh my God! What the fuck?
And the ambition, the aspirations, the dreams of the American
What
people.
the fuck does that mean?
That's why I imagine and have actually a plan to build what I call an opportunity economy.
Opportunity economy? What the fuck is that?
We have a shortage of homes and housing. And the cost of housing is too expensive for far too many people. We know that young families need support to raise their children, and I intend on extending a tax cut for those families of $6,000, which is the largest
$6,000
that we have given in a long time, so that those young families can afford
hit
to
the
buy
screen.
a crib, buy a car seat.
Yo,
buy
hit the
clothes
screen,
for their
man. I
children.
can't listen to this.
My passion, one of them, is small businesses. I was actually...
What the fuck does that have to do with what he asked?
But there was a woman...
Trump ready, man. Trump ready.
I love... She was a small business owner. I love our small businesses.
Small business owner. Trump like, man, what the fuck are you talking about?
Tax deduction.
$50,000.
Small businesses, knowing they are part of the backbone of America's economy. My opponent, on the other hand, his plan is to do what he has done before, which is to provide a tax
Yo,
cut
Trump,
for
cool,
billionaires
calm, and collected.
I
love it.
Will result in
I love it.
$5
I love it. Trump 2024. Put some American flags.
Sales tax, which would be a 20% tax on everyday goods that you rely on.
What does that have to do with this question?
Economists have said that Trump sales tax would actually result for middle-class families in about $4,000 more a year because of his policies and his ideas.
Yo, I just got an alert about
the backs of
reproduced stuff.
for tax cuts for
So I put it on me and we can listen.
Trump, I'll give you 2 minutes.
Hold on.
First of all, I have no sales tax. That's an incorrect statement.
Hold on.
She knows that. We're doing tariffs on other countries.
Trying to ban
Other
me.
countries are going to finally, after 75 years, pay us back for all that we've done for the world. And the tariff will be substantial in some cases. I took in billions and billions of dollars, as you know, from China.
Trying to ban me.
In fact, they never took the tariff off because there was so much money they can't. It would totally destroy everything that they've
popped
set out
up
to
and
do.
said, warning.
They've taken in billions of dollars from China
Reproduced
and other places
material.
they've left the tariffs on. When I had it, I had tariffs, and yet I had no inflation. Look, we've had a terrible economy because inflation has, which is really known as a country buster.
I'm gonna go back to it. Hold on.
We have inflation like very few people have ever seen before, probably the worst in our nation's history. We were at 21%, but that's being generous because many things are 50, 60, 70, and 80% higher than they were just a few years ago. This has been a disaster for people, for the middle class, but for every class. On top of that, we have millions of people pouring into our country from prisons and jails, from mental institutions and insane asylums, and they're coming in and they're taking jobs that are occupied right now by African Americans and Hispanics.
Yes.
And also
Yes.
unions
Yes.
affected very seriously.
Yes.
And you see what's happening. You see
Low
what's happening with
wage
the
workers.
United States.
Yes.
You look at Springfield, Ohio. You look at Aurora in Colorado. They are taking over the towns. They're taking over buildings. They're going in violently.
Violence.
Those are the people that she and Biden led into our country.
Yes.
They're destroying our country.
Yes.
They're dangerous. They're at the highest level of criminality.
Yes.
And we have to get them out. We have to get them out fast. I created one of the greatest economies in the history of our country. I'll do it again and even better.
We are going to get to immigration and border security during this
Nah,
debate.
talk that talk.
I would like to let Vice President Harris respond on the economy here.
Well, I would love to. Let's talk about what Donald Trump left us. Donald Trump left us the
4 years ago.
Unemployment since the Great Depression. Donald Trump.
Oh,
left
that's
us
a
the
lie.
worst public
She's
health
lying.
Epidemic in a century.
She's lying.
Donald Trump left us the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War.
The Civil War? She wasn't even American.
Donald Trump's mess.
She isn't even American.
What we have done and what I intend to do is build on what we know are the aspirations and the hopes
Wow.
of the American people. But I'm going to tell you all in this debate tonight, you're going to hear from the same old tired playbook, a bunch of lies, grievances, and name calling. What you're
He didn't call a name.
Is a detailed and dangerous plan called Project 2025.
He's not even Project 2025.
Implementing if he were elected again. I believe.
Look at her up there shaking and
that
shit.
The American people want
Michael
a
J.
president
Fox
who
in it.
understands the importance of bringing us together, knowing we have so much more in common than what separates
Shut
us.
up.
And I pledge to you to be a president for all Americans.
President Trump will give you a minute here to respond.
Number one, I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it.
Yes!
I'm not going to read it. There's a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas. I guess some good, some bad. But it makes no difference. I have nothing to do. Everybody knows I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Cut taxes very substantially.
Taxes!
And create a great economy like I did before. We had the greatest economy. We got hit with a pandemic. And the pandemic was not since 1917, where 100 million people died, has there been anything like it. We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic. We handed them over a country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We made ventilators for the entire world. We got gowns, we got masks, we did things that nobody thought possible. And people give me credit for rebuilding the military. They give me credit for a lot of things, but not enough credit for the great job we did with the pandemic.
Nah, I give you
the
credit.
only jobs they got were bounce back jobs. These were jobs bounce back, and it bounced back and it went to their benefit. But I was the one that created them. They know it, and so does everybody else.
Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond.
So, Donald Trump has no plan for you. And when you look at his economic
What
plan,
the
it's all
fuck
about
is she
tax
talking?
breaks for the richest people.
Yes, it should
I am
be.
offering what I describe as an opportunity economy, and
What the
best
fuck does that
economists
mean?
in our country, if not the world,
Opportunity
have reviewed our
economy?
relative plans for the future of America. What Goldman Sachs has said is that Donald Trump's plan would make the economy worse. Mine would strengthen the economy.
You just said he had no plan.
What School has said is Donald Trump's plan would actually explode the deficit.
Oh my
16
God.
Nobel laureates
Oh,
have
the
described
deficit.
his economic plan as something that would increase inflation and by the middle of next year would invite a recession. You just have to look at where we are and where we stand on the issues. And I'd invite you to know that Donald Trump actually has no plan for you because he is more interested in defending himself than he is in looking out for you.
It's just a soundbite. They gave her that to say. Look, I went to the Wharton School of Finance, and many of those professors, the top professors, think my plan is a brilliant plan. It's a great plan. It's a plan that's going to bring up our worth, our value as a country. It's going to make people want to be able to go and work and create jobs and create a lot of good, solid money for our country. Just to finish off, she doesn't have a plan. She copied Biden's plan, and it's like 4 sentences, like run, spot, run. 4 sentences that are just, oh, we'll try and lower taxes. She doesn't have a plan. Take a look at her plan. She doesn't have a plan.
Mr. President, I do want to drill down on something you both brought up. The Vice President brought up your tariffs. You responded, and let's drill down on this because your plan is what she calls is essentially a national sales tax. Your proposal calls for tariffs, as you pointed out here, on foreign imports across the board. You recently said that you might double your plan, imposing tariffs up to 20% on goods coming into this country.
This is so good. Trump
As you know,
knows
many
what he do.
economists say that
Spot, run. That's my next shirt. That's my next shirt. Run, spot, run.
Harris has argued it'll mean higher prices on gas, food, clothing, medication,
run,
arguing it costs the typical family nearly $4,000 a year. Do you believe Americans can afford higher prices because of tariffs?
They're not going to have higher prices. What's going to have, and who's going to have higher prices is China and all of the countries that have been ripping us off for years.
Yes.
I was the only president ever. China was paying us hundreds of billions of dollars, and so were other countries. And, you know, if she doesn't like them, they should have gone out and they should have immediately cut the tariffs. But those tariffs are there 3.5 years now under their administration. We are going to take in billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. I had no inflation, virtually no inflation. They had the highest inflation perhaps in the history of our country because I've never seen a worse period of time. People can't go out and buy cereal or bacon or eggs or anything else.
Yes.
The people of our country are absolutely dying with what they've done. They've destroyed the economy. And all you have to do is look at a poll. The polls say 80 and 85 and even 90% that the Trump economy was great, that their economy was terrible.
Vice President Harris, I do want to ask for your response, and you heard what the president said there, because the Biden administration did keep a number of the Trump tariffs in place. So how do you respond?
Well, let's be clear that the Trump administration resulted in a trade deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen in the history of America. He invited trade wars. You want to talk about his deal with China? What he ended up doing is under Donald Trump's presidency, he ended up selling American chips to China to help them improve and modernize their military, basically sold us out. When a policy about China should be in making sure the United States of America wins the competition for the 21st century, which means focusing on the details of what that requires, focusing on relationships with our allies, focusing on investing in American-based technology so that we win the race on AI, on quantum computing, focusing on what we need to do to support America's workforce so that we don't end up having on the short end of the stick in terms of workers' rights. But what Donald Trump did, let's talk about this, with COVID, is he actually thanked President Xi for what he did during COVID. Look at his tweet. Thank you, President Xi, exclamation point, when we know that Xi was responsible for lacking and not giving us transparency about the origins of COVID.
President Trump, I'll let you respond.
First of all, they bought their chips from Taiwan. We hardly make chips anymore because philosophies like they have and policies
Yes,
like
yes.
they have. I don't say her because she has no policy. Everything that she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat. She's going to my philosophy, but if she ever got elected, she'd change it. And it will be the end of our country. She's a Marxist. Everybody knows she's a Marxist. Her father's a Marxist professor in economics, and he taught her well. But when you look at what she's done to our country,
Yes.
and when you look at these millions and millions of people that are pouring into our country monthly, where it's, I believe, 21 million people, not the 15 that people say, and I think it's a lot higher than the 21. That's bigger than New York State pouring in. And just look at what they're doing to our country. They're criminals. Many of these people coming in are criminals. And that's bad
Let's
for our
go.
economy, too. You know, you mentioned
Let's
before,
go.
about
Yo, hit
immigration
the
later.
screen,
Well,
damn
bad
it.
immigration is the worst thing that can happen to our economy. They have, and she has, destroyed our country.
Yes.
Policy
Yes.
that's insane.
Yes.
Almost policies
And
that
she's
you
not
say
from here.
They have to hate our country.
President Trump, thank you. Lindsay?
I want to turn to the issue of abortion. President
Yeah,
Trump,
let's
you
go
often
there.
touted that you were able to kill Roe v. Wade.
Yeah, let's go
Last
there.
year, you said that you were proud to be the most pro-life president
Yes.
in American history.
Yes.
Then last month, you said that your administration would be great for women and their reproductive rights.
Yes.
In your home state of Florida, you surprised many with regard to your 6-week abortion ban because you initially had said that it was too short. And you said, quote, I'm going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks. But then the very next day, you reversed course and said you would vote to support the 6-week ban. Vice President Harris says that women shouldn't trust you on the issue of abortion because you've changed your position so many times. Therefore, why should they trust you?
Well, the reason I'm doing that vote is because the plan is, as you know, the vote is, they have abortion in the 9th month.
Yes.
They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, is doing an excellent job, but the governor before, he said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby. And that's why I did that, because that predominates, because they're radical. The Democrats are radical in that. And her vice presidential pick, which I think was a horrible pick, by the way, for our country, because he is really out of it. But her vice presidential pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine. He also says execution after birth. It's execution, no longer abortion, because the baby is born, is okay. And that's not okay with me, hence the vote. But what I did is something for 52 years. They've been trying to get Roe v. Wade into the states. And through the genius and heart and strength of 6 Supreme Court justices, we were able to do that. Now, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life.
Let him say it.
I believe strongly in it. Ronald
Yes, he
Reagan
said
did
it.
Also, 85% of Republicans do.
Yes.
Exceptions, very important. But we were able to get it, and now states are voting on it. And for the first time, you're going to see, look, this is an issue that's torn our country apart for 52 years. Every legal scholar, every Democrat, every Republican, liberal, conservative, they all wanted this issue to be brought back to the states where the people could vote. And that's what happened. And now, Ohio, the vote was somewhat liberal. Kansas, the vote was somewhat liberal, much more liberal than people would have thought. But each individual state is voting. It's the vote of the people now. It's not tied up in the federal government. I did a great service in doing it. It took
Leave it
courage
to the
do
states.
And the Supreme Court had great courage in doing it. And I give tremendous credit to those 6 justices.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President,
How can she just say that?
President Trump.
Well, as I said, you're going to hear a bunch of lies, and that's
Oh,
not actually
God,
a
I hate
surprising
her.
fact.
Listen.
Let's understand how we got here. Donald Trump hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did exactly as he intended. And now in over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans,
Good.
which make it criminal
Yes.
for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life. Trump abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest, which understand
Oh my
what
God,
that
you just
means.
said the opposite.
A survivor of a crime, a violation to their body, does
just
not
said the
have the
opposite.
right to make a decision
He
about what
literally
happens
just said,
to their
I
body
believe
next.
in
That
it
is
against
immoral.
incest or rape.
And one
He just
does
said
not
it.
have to abandon
He just said
their
it.
faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government and Donald Trump certainly should not be telling a woman what to do with
God,
her
here they go.
body. I have talked with women around our country. You want to talk about this is what people wanted? Pregnant women who want to carry a pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare providers are afraid they might go to jail.
No,
and
this
she's
is not
bleeding
happening.
out in a car in the parking
This is
lot.
not happening.
She didn't want that.
She
Her
doesn't-
husband didn't want that.
Oh
A
my
12
God.
or 13-year-old
Ah.
survivor of incest?
Oh
being forced to
God,
carry
where
a
is
pregnancy
less
to
than
term?
0%?
They don't want that.
What is she talking
And I
about?
pledge to you,
I pledge
when
to you.
Congress passes
Oh,
a bill
shut up.
to put back in place the
Shut
protections of
up.
Roe v. Wade, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into
I know you will.
law.
You love
But
doing that.
understand, if Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his Project 2025,
He
there would be a
doesn't have
national
Project
abortion
25.
monitor that would be monitoring your pregnancies.
Why does
your
she keep saying
miscarriages.
this?
I think the American people believe.
How many
that
times can he
certain
say he's not
freedoms,
Project
in particular,
2025?
the freedom to make decisions about one's own body, should
Tomatoes.
not be made by the government.
Throw
Thank you,
tomatoes.
Vice President Harris.
Well, there she goes again. It's a lie. I'm not signing a ban, and there's no reason to sign a ban.
Tell 'em.
Because we've gotten what everybody wanted. Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else, and every legal scholar wanted it to be brought back into the states. And the states are voting. And it may take a little time, but for 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart. And they've wanted it back in the states. And I did something that nobody thought was possible. The states are now voting. What she says is an absolute lie. And as far as the abortion ban, no, I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't matter because this issue has now been taken over by the states.
Would you veto a national abortion ban if it
Well,
came
I
to your
won't
desk?
have to because, again, two things. Number one, she said she'll go back to Congress. She'll never get the vote. It's impossible for her to get the vote, especially now with the 50-50, essentially 50-50 in both Senate and the House. She's not going to get the vote. She can't get the vote. She won't even come close to it. So it's just talk. You know what it reminds me of when they said they're going to get student loans terminated? It ended up being a total catastrophe. The student loans, and then her, I think probably her boss, if you call him a boss, he spends all his time on the beach. But look, her boss went out and said, we'll do it again. We'll do it a different way. And he went out, got rejected again by the Supreme Court. So all these students got taunted with this whole thing about this whole idea. And how unfair that would have been, part of the reason they lost, to the millions and millions of people that had to pay off their student loans. They didn't get it for free. But they were saying it's the same way that they talked about that they talk about abortion.
But if I could just get a yes or no, because your running mate, J.D. Vance, has said that you would veto it if it did come to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with J.D. In all fairness, J.D. And I don't mind if he has a certain view, but I think he was speaking for me, but I really didn't. Look, we don't have to discuss it because she'd never be able to get it, just like she couldn't get student loans. They couldn't get student loans. They didn't even come close to getting student loans. They taunted young people and a lot of other people that had loans. They can never get this approved. So it doesn't matter what she says about going to Congress. Well, wonderful. Let's go to Congress, do it. But the fact is that for years they wanted to get it out of Congress and out of the federal government. And
Into the
did
states.
something that everybody said couldn't be done. And now you have a vote of the people on abortion.
Vice President Harris, I want to give you your time to respond, but I do want to ask, would you support any restrictions on a woman's right to an abortion?
I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade. And as you rightly mentioned, nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and asking for an abortion. That is not happening. It's insulting to the women of America.
It's not insulting.
And understand what has been
Oh,
happening
my
under
God.
Donald Trump's abortion bans. Couples who pray and dream of having a family are being denied IVF treatments. What is happening in our country? Working people, working women who are working 1 or 2 jobs, who can barely afford childcare as it is, have to travel to another state to get on a plane sitting
Who
next to
believes
strangers
this
to go and get the health care she needs.
This is made up.
Barely can afford to do it, and what you are putting her through is unconscionable. And the people of America have not, the majority of Americans believe in a woman's right to make decisions about her own body, and that is why in every state where this issue has been on the ballot, in red and blue states both, the people of America have voted for freedom.
Vice President Harris,
excuse me, I have to respond. Another lie. It's another lie. I have been a leader on IVF, which is fertilization. The IVF, I have been a leader. In fact, when they got a very negative decision on IVF from the Alabama courts, I saw the people of Alabama and the legislature 2 days later voted it in. I've been a leader on it. They know that, and everybody else knows it.
Yes.
I have been a leader on fertilization.
Yes, he's already
IVF.
said this.
And the other thing, you should ask, will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month?
Come on.
Okay, would you do that? Why don't you ask her that question?
Why don't you
That's
answer
the
the question?
problem.
Would you
Because
veto?
under Roe v.
Answer
Wade,
the question.
you
Would you
could
veto?
abortions in the 7th month, the 8th month, the 9th
Yes.
month, and probably after birth. Just look at the governor, former governor of Virginia. The governor of Virginia said, we put the baby aside and then we determine what we want to do with the baby.
President Trump, thank you.
We're going to turn now to immigration and border security.
She don't want
we know
this.
It's an issue that's important
She
to
don't want
Republicans,
this.
Democrats, voters across the board in this country. Vice President Harris, you were tasked by President Biden with getting to the root causes
thinks
of
she has on an
migration from
earpiece?
Central
She
America.
probably does.
We know that illegal border crossings reached a record high in the Biden administration. This past June, President Biden imposed tough new asylum restrictions. We know the numbers since then have dropped significantly. But my question to you tonight is, why did the administration wait until 6 months before the election to act? And would you have done anything differently from President Biden on this?
So I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. And let me say that the United States Congress, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, came up with a border security bill which I supported. And that bill would have put 1,500 more border agents on the border to help
1,500?
those folks who are working there right now
1,500?
overtime trying to do their job. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States. I know there are so many families watching tonight who have been personally affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country.
Oh my God,
That
look at
bill
him.
would have put more resources to allow us to prosecute transnational criminal
Oh my
organizations
God.
for trafficking in
How
guns,
is this
drugs, and
real?
human beings. But you know what happened?
How
to
is
that
this
bill?
real?
Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some folks in Congress, and said, kill the bill.
What's
And
that?
you know why? Because he
What's that
preferred to
noise?
run on a problem instead of fixing
Oh, okay.
a problem. And understand, this comes at a time where the people of our country actually need a leader
Did
who
they win?
engages in solutions, who actually addresses the problems at hand. But what we have in the former president is someone who would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And I'll tell you something, he's going to talk about immigration a lot tonight, even when it's not the subject that is being raised. And I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch.
What the
You will
fuck
see
does that
during the
mean?
course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about women.
What is she talking about?
And what you will also notice is that people.
What is
start
she
leaving
talking
his
about?
rallies
Who
early
could vote
out of
for this?
exhaustion and
This
boredom.
person?
And I will tell you the one thing you will
Who
not
could
hear him
vote
talk
for
about
this?
is you. You will not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams,
What?
and your needs and your desires. And I'll tell you, I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you first, and I pledge to you that I will.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, on that point, I want to get your response.
Let him respond.
Why did you try to kill that bill, and successfully so? That would have put thousands of additional agents in office.
1,500?
First, let me respond as to the rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there, and then showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the
Yes.
most incredible rallies in the
Those
history of
awesome
politics.
rallies.
That's because people want to take their country back.
Yes,
Our
take it
country
back.
is being lost. We're a failing nation, and it happened 3.5 years ago.
When she got in there.
What's going on here? You're going to end up in World War III. Just to go into another subject. what they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs.
Yeah, them Haitians.
They're eating the cats.
Them Haitians.
They're eating,
they're
eating the pets.
Yeah.
Of the people.
That's
that
where we
live
at.
there.
Them Haitians.
And this is what's
Ça
happening
passe.
in our country.
Ça
And
passe.
it's a shame. As far as rallies are concerned, as far as the reason they go is they like what I say. They want to bring our country back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase. Make America great again. She's destroying this country, and if she becomes president, this country doesn't have a chance of success. Not only success, we'll end up being Venezuela on steroids.
I just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there had been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well, I've seen people on television.
Let me just say here, this is
the people on television say my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good thing to say for a city manager.
Yeah, why would he say that? Why would he admit
On
it?
television saying the dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that. Vice
We'll
President
find
Harris,
out.
I'll let you respond to the rest of what you've heard.
You talk about extreme. This is, I think, one of the reasons why in this election I actually have the endorsement of 200 Republicans who have formerly worked with President Bush, Mitt Romney, and John McCain, including the endorsement of former Vice President Dick Cheney and Congress member Liz Cheney. And if you want to really know the inside track on who the former president is, if he didn't make it clear already, just ask people who have worked with him. His former chief of staff, a 4-star general, has said he has contempt for the Constitution of the United States. His former national security advisor has said he is dangerous and unfit.
She's not American.
His former Secretary of Defense has said the nation, the Republic, would never survive another Trump term.
Nobody
And
said
when
that.
we listen to this
Nobody
kind
said
of
that.
rhetoric, when the issues that affect the American people are
Nobody
not
said
being addressed, I think the choice is clear in this election.
President Trump, I'll give you a quick minute to respond.
Yeah. Thank you, because when I hear that, see, I'm a different kind of a person. I fired most of those people. Not so graciously. They did bad things or a bad job. I fired them. They never fired one person. They didn't fire anybody having to do with Afghanistan and the Taliban and the 13 people who's were just killed, viciously and violently killed. And I got to know the parents and the family. They didn't fire. They should have fired all those generals, all those top people, because that was one of the most incompetently handled situations anybody has ever seen. So when somebody does a bad job, I fire him.
Fired.
Take a guy like Esper.
You're fired.
He was no good. I fired him. So he writes a book. Another one writes a book, because with me they can write books. With nobody else can they? But they have done such a poor job, and they never fire anybody. Look at the economy. Look at the inflation. They didn't fire any of their economists. They have the same people. That's a good way not to have books written about you. But just to finish, I got more votes than any Republican in history by far. In fact, I got more votes than any president, sitting president in history by far.
Let me continue on immigration. It was what you wanted to talk about earlier, so let's get back to your deportation proposal that the vice president has reacted to as well. President Trump, you call this the largest domestic deportation operation in the history of our country. You say you would use the National Guard. You say if things get out of control, you'd have no problem using the U.S. military.
Police, yes.
You also said you would use local police. How would you deport 11 million undocumented immigrants? I know you believe that number is much higher. Take us through this. What does this look like? Will authorities be going door to door in this country?
Yeah, it is much higher because of them.
Yes.
They allowed criminals, many millions of criminals.
Millions.
They allowed terrorists. They allowed common street criminals. They allowed people to come in, drug dealers, to come into our country. And they're now in the United States and told by their countries like Venezuela, don't ever come back or we're going to kill you. Do you know that crime in Venezuela and crime in countries all over the world is way down? You know why? because they've taken their criminals off the street and they've given them to her to put into our country. And this will be one of the greatest mistakes in history for them to allow. And I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get votes, but it's not worth it because they're destroying the fabric of our country by what they've done. There's never been anything done like this at all. They've destroyed the fabric of our country. Millions of people let in, and all over the world, crime is down, all over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof, despite their fraudulent statements that they made. Crime in this country is through the roof. And we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. And it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country. But
Excuse me,
that's because they're reporting it.
Statements. They didn't include the worst cities. They didn't include the cities with the worst crime. It was a fraud. Just like their number of 818,000 jobs that they said they created turned out to be a fraud.
President Trump, thank you. I'll let you respond, Vice President Harris.
Well, I think this is so rich coming from someone who has been prosecuted for national security crimes, economic crimes, election interference, has been found liable for sexual assault, and his next big court appearance is in November at his own criminal sentencing. And let's be clear, where each person stands on the issue of what is important about respect for the rule of law and respect for law enforcement. The former vice president called for defunding federal law enforcement, 45,000 agents, get this, on the day after he was arraigned on 34 felony counts. So let's talk about what is important in this race. It is important that we move forward.
Why isn't she talking about immigration?
That we turn the page on this same old tired rhetoric and address the needs of the American people, address what we need to do about the housing shortage, which I have a plan for.
What about immigration?
Address what we must do to support our small businesses.
Why isn't she talking about
bringing
immigration?
down the price of groceries. But
She's
frankly,
in
the
office
American
now.
people are exhausted with this same old tired playbook.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
Excuse me. Every one of those cases was started by them against their political opponent. And I'm winning most of them, and I will win the rest on appeal. And you saw that with the decision that came down just recently from the Supreme Court. I'm winning most of them. But those are cases, it's called weaponization. Never happened in this country. They weaponized the Justice Department. Every one of those cases was involved with the DOJ, from Atlanta and Fani Willis to the Attorney General of New York and the DA in New York. Every one of those cases. And then they say, oh, he's a criminal. They're the ones that made them go after me. By the way, Joe Biden was found essentially guilty on the documents case. And what happened in my documents case? They said, oh, that's the toughest of them all. A complete and total victory. 2 months ago, it was thrown out. It's weaponization, and they used it, and it's never happened in this country. They used it to try and win an election. They're fake cases.
President Trump, thank you. A really quick response here, Vice President Harris, on this notion of weaponization of the Justice Department.
Well, let's talk about extreme and understand the context in which this election in 2024 is taking place. The United States Supreme Court recently ruled that the former president would essentially be immune from any misconduct if he were to enter the White House again.
Yes.
Understand, this is someone who has openly said he would terminate, I'm quoting, terminate the Constitution of the United States.
He never said that.
He would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies. Someone who has openly expressed disdain for members of our military. Understand what it would mean if Donald Trump were back in the White House with no guardrails. Because certainly we know now the court won't stop him. We know J.D. Vance is not going to stop him. It's up to the American people
Vice President
to stop
Harris,
him.
thank you. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president.
This is the one that weaponized, not me. She weaponized. I probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me. They talk about democracy. I'm a threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy with a fake Russia investigation that went nowhere.
We have a lot to get to. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president, you said you wanted to ban fracking. Now For president, you said you wanted to ban fracking. Now you don't. You wanted mandatory government buyback programs for assault weapons. Now your campaign says you don't. You supported decriminalizing border crossings. Now you're taking a harder line. I know you say that your values have not changed. So then why have so many of your policy positions changed?
So my values have not changed, and I'm going to discuss every one of it, at least every point that you've made. But in particular, let's talk about fracking because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020. I will not ban fracking. I have not banned fracking as Vice President of the United States. And in fact, I was the tie-breaking vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which opened new leases for fracking. My position is that we have got to invest in diverse sources of energy so we reduce our reliance on foreign oil. We have had the largest increase in domestic oil production in history, because of an approach that recognizes that we cannot over-rely on
do
foreign
y'all pay
oil.
for gas like I pay
As
for
it
gas?
relates to my values, let me
It
tell
ain't
you,
went
I
down.
grew up a middle-class kid raised by a hardworking mother
A
who
middle-class
worked and
kid?
saved and was able to buy our first home when I was a teenager.
Them days is
The
gone.
values I bring to the importance of home ownership, knowing not everybody got handed $400 million on a silver platter and then filed bankruptcy 6 times, is a value that I bring to my
How is
work
this real?
to say we are going to work with the private sector and home builders to increase 3 million homes, increase by 3 million homes by the end
He
of my
should just
first
go
term.
evil on her.
My work
He
that
should
is
just tell her
related
about
to
herself.
having a friend when I was in high school who was sexually assaulted by her stepfather.
Oh my
And my
God.
focus then
What
on
the fuck
protecting
does
women and
this have
children
to
from
do with
violent
anything?
crime is based on a value that is
It's empty.
deeply grounded in the importance of standing up for those who are most vulnerable. My work that is about protecting Social Security and Medicare is based on long-standing work that I have done, protecting seniors from scams. My values have not changed. And what is important is that there is a president who actually brings values and a
me another
perspective that is
drink.
about lifting people up and not beating people down and name-calling. The true measure of the leader is the leader who actually understands the strength is not in beating people down, it's in lifting people up. I intend to be that president.
President Trump, your
Well, first of
response?
all, I wasn't given $400 million. I wish I was. My father was a Brooklyn builder, Brooklyn, Queens, and a great father, and I learned a lot from him. But I was given a fraction of that, a tiny fraction, and I built it into many, many billions of dollars.
Billions.
Many, many billions. And when people see it, they are even surprised. So we don't have to talk about that. Fracking, she's been against it for 12 years. Defund the police, she's been against that forever. She gave all that stuff up very wrongly, very horribly, and everybody's laughing at it, okay? They're all laughing at it. She gave up at least 12 and probably 14 or 15 different policies. Like, she was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out, wait a minute, I'm talking now. If you don't mind, please. Does that sound familiar? She went out in Minnesota and wanted to let criminals that killed people, that burned down Minneapolis. She went out and raised money to get them out of jail. She did things that nobody would ever think of. Now she wants to do transgender operations on illegal aliens that are in prison. This is a radical left liberal that would do this. She wants to confiscate your guns, and she will never allow fracking in Pennsylvania. If she won the election, fracking in Pennsylvania will end on day one. Just to finish one thing, so important in my opinion. So I got the oil business going like nobody has ever done before.
Let's go.
When they took over, they got rid of it, started getting rid of it, and the prices were going up the roof. They immediately let these guys go to where they were. I would have been 5 times, 4 times, 5 times higher, because you're talking about 3.5 years ago. They got it
hit
up
the screen.
to
Hit
where
the screen.
I was because
Sorry,
they had no
y'all.
choice,
Hit the
because
screen.
the prices of
Yo, I ain't
energy
got no. Nobody hit
quadrupling and
no.
doubling. You
Send
saw
no
what happened to
gifts.
gasoline. So they said,
Ain't
let's
nobody
go back
send
to
no
Trump.
gifts neither.
But if she won the
Oh, my
election, the
God.
day after that election, they'll go back to destroying our country, and oil will be dead, fossil fuel will be dead. We'll go back to windmills, or we'll go back to solar, where they need a whole desert to get some energy.
There we go.
You
There
ever
we
see a
go.
solar
There
panel?
go my
By the way, I'm
people.
a big fan of solar. But
I thought they shut it off.
400, 500 acres of desert
President
soil.
Trump, we have a lot
These
of
are
good
things
that
for
we
the
have to get
environment
to.
that
We're
she
out of time.
understands.
Thank you.
Lindsay, thank you. We have an election in just 56 days.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about
Thank y'all.
peaceful transfer
I
of power,
appreciate it.
which, of course, we
I
all
appreciate
know is
y'all
a cornerstone
watching
of our
with me.
democracy and the role of a president in a moment of crisis. Mr. President,
Yeah,
January
that Lindsay
6th, you
chick
told
is
your
biased
supporters to
because
march to the
she's.
Capitol. You said you would be right there with them. The country
They put her
and the
there
world saw what
because
played out of the Capitol that
DEI
day,
hire.
officers coming under attack.
DEI hire.
Aides in the West Wing say you watched it unfold on television off the Oval Office. You did send out tweets, but it was more than 2 hours before you sent out that video message telling your supporters to go home. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
Trump didn't do nothing.
You
there.
just said a thing that isn't covered. Peacefully and patriotically, I said during my speech, not later on. Peacefully
And patriotically.
And nobody on the other side was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer that should have never, ever shot her. It's a disgrace. But
Thank
we
y'all.
didn't
I
do
appreciate
this
y'all.
group of people that have been treated so badly.
Run, spot,
I
run.
asked,
That's my
what
next
about
shirt.
all the people that are pouring
I'm
into our
making the
country and
shirt.
killing
Run,
people
spot, run.
that she allowed to pour in? She was the border czar. Remember that. She was the border czar. She doesn't want to be called the border czar because she's embarrassed by the border. In fact, she said at the beginning, "Oh, I'm surprised you're not talking about the border yet." That's because she knows what a bad job they've done. What about those people? When are they going to be prosecuted? When are these people from countries all over the world, not just South America, they're coming in from all over the world, David, all over the world, and crime rates are down all over the world because of it.
But let me just
when are those, David? When are those people going to be prosecuted? When are the people that burned down Minneapolis going to be prosecuted?
Yes.
Or in
Put
Seattle?
them in jail.
When in Seattle, they took over a big percentage of the city of Seattle. When are those people going to be prosecuted?
But let me just ask
You might ask her that question.
You were the president. You were watching it unfold on television. It's a very simple question as we move forward toward another election. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day? Yes, sir.
I had nothing to do with that other than they asked me to make a speech. I showed up for a speech. I said, I think it's going to be big. I went to Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington, D.C., and the mayor put it back in writing, as you know. I said, this is going to be a very big rally or whatever you want to call it. And again, it wasn't done by me, it was done by others.
I appreciate y'all hitting the screen.
I'd like to give you
'Cause it
10,000
matters.
National Guard or soldiers. They rejected me. Nancy Pelosi rejected me. It was just 2 weeks ago. Her daughter has a tape of her saying she is fully responsible for what happened. They want to get rid of that tape. It would have never happened if Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington did their jobs. I wasn't responsible for security. Nancy Pelosi was responsible. She didn't do her job.
The question was about you as president, not about former Speaker Pelosi, but I do want Vice President Harris to respond here.
I was at the Capitol on January 6th. I was the vice president-elect. I was also an acting senator. I was there. And on that day, the president of the United States incited a violent mob
He didn't incite
to
nothing.
attack our nation's capital,
Oh my God! Look at her.
to desecrate
Oh
our
my
nation's
God!
capital. On
Listen
that
to
day,
her. What about Willie?
140
What about
law
Willie?
enforcement
Talk
officers
about
were
Willie.
injured, and some
Talk
died.
about Willie.
And
Oh, let me
the
put my glasses on.
former
I can't
president
see
has
through the
been indicted
bullshit.
and impeached
I can't even
for
see through the
exactly that
bullshit.
reason.
Oh,
But
Pit
this
Mom,
is not
thank
an
you.
isolated situation. Let's remember Charlottesville, where
Charlottesville.
there was a mob of people carrying tiki torches.
Oh my
spewing
God.
Anti-Semitic hate.
Oh my God! What
And
does that have
did
to do with
the
Trump?
president then at the time say? There were fine people on each side.
He did because.
Let's remember
Do you know what he was saying? Like,
that
what is
when it
going?
came to
How
the
are we
Proud
living
Boys,
in
a
a?
militia?
Are we living in a different world right now?
The former president said, stand back and stand by.
Did
So for
Oh
everyone
my
watching who
God.
remembers what January 6th was, I say we don't have to go back.
How is this real?
Let's not go back. We're not going back. It's time to
You should
turn
go
the
back to
page.
India.
And if that was a bridge too far
Thank you.
for you, well, there is a place in
A bridge
our
too
campaign
far
for
for
you
you.
to stand
What a
for
nutcase!
country, to stand for our democracy, to
What a
stand for
nutcase.
rule of law, and to end the chaos, and to end the approach that is about attacking the foundations of our democracy because you don't like the outcome. And be clear on that point. Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath. if this and the outcome of this election is not to his liking, let's turn the page on this.
Fear-mongering.
Let's not go back. Let's chart a course for the future and not go backwards to the past.
Let me just follow up here.
It was a different term, and it was a term that related to energy because they have destroyed our energy business. That was what bloodbath was.
Changing.
Also, on Charlottesville, that story has been, as you would say, debunked. Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, Jesse, all of these people, they covered it. If they go an extra sentence, they will see it was perfect. It was debunked in almost every newspaper, but they still bring it up, just like they bring 2025 up. They bring all of this stuff up. I ask you this, you talk about the Capitol. Why are we allowing these millions of people to come through on the southern border? How come she's not doing anything? And I'll tell you what I would do, and I would be very proud to do it. I would say we would both leave this debate right now. I'd like to see her go down to Washington, D.C. during this debate because we're wasting a lot of time. Go down to, because she's been so bad, it's so ridiculous. Go down to Washington, D.C. and let her sign a bill to close up the border because they have the right to do it. They don't need bills. They have the right to do it. The President of the United States, you'll get him out of bed, you'll wake him up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you'll say, come on down to the office, let's sign a bill. If he signs a bill that the border is closed, all he has to do is say it to the Border Patrol, who are phenomenal. If they do that, the border is closed. Those people are killing many people, unlike J6.
We talked immigration here tonight. I do want to focus on this next issue to both of you because it really brings us this into focus, truth in these times that we're living in. Mr. President, for 3.5 years after you lost the 2020 election, you repeatedly falsely claimed that you won, many times saying you won in a landslide. In the past couple of weeks leading up to this debate, you have said, quote, you lost by a whisker, that you, quote, didn't quite make it, that you came up a little bit short.
I said that?
Are you now acknowledging that you lost in 2020?
No, I don't acknowledge it at all. I said that sarcastically. You know that. It was said, oh, we lost by a whisker. That was said sarcastically. Look, there's so much proof. All you have to do is look at it. And they should have sent it back to the legislatures for approval. I got almost 75 million votes, the most votes any sitting president has ever gotten. I was told if I got 63, which was what I got in 2016, you can't be beaten. The election, people should never be thinking about an election as fraudulent. We need two things. We need walls, and we have to have it. We have to have borders, and we have to have good elections. Our elections are bad. And a lot of these illegal immigrants coming in, they're trying to get them to vote. They can't even speak English. They don't even know what country they're in practically. And these people are trying to get them to vote. And that's why they're allowing them to come into our country.
I did watch all of these pieces of video. I didn't detect the sarcasm, lost by a whisker. We didn't quite make it. And we should just point out here as clarification, and you know this, you and your allies, 60 cases in front of many judges, many of them Republican.
No judge looked at it.
And said
they said we didn't have standing. That's the other thing. They said we didn't have standing, a technicality. Can you imagine a system where a person in an election doesn't have standing? The President of the United States doesn't have standing. That's how we lost. If you look at the facts, and I'd love to have you'll do a special on it. I'll show you Georgia, and I'll show you Wisconsin, and I'll show you Pennsylvania, and I'll show you. We have so many facts and statistics, but you know what? That doesn't matter because we have to solve the problem that we have right now. That's old news. And the problem that we have right now is we have a nation in decline, and they have put it into decline. We have a nation that is dying, David.
Mr. President, thank you. Vice President Harris, you heard the president there tonight. He said he didn't say that he lost by a whisker. So he still believes he did not lose the election. That was won by President Biden and yourself. But I do want to ask you about something that's come up in the last couple of days. This was a post from President Trump about this upcoming election just weeks away. He said, when I win, those people who cheated, and then he lists donors, voters, election officials, he says will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, which will include long-term prison sentences. One of your campaign's top lawyers responded saying, we won't let Donald Trump intimidate us. We won't let him suppress the vote. Is that what you believe he's trying to do here?
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people.
No, he wasn't.
So let's be clear about that.
No, he wasn't.
And clearly he is having a very difficult time processing that. But we cannot afford to have a president of the United States who attempts, as he did in the past, to upend the will of the voters in a free and fair election. And I'm going to tell you that I have traveled the world as Vice President of the United States, and world leaders are laughing at Donald Trump.
No, they're not.
I have talked with military leaders, some of whom worked with you, and they say you're a disgrace. And when you then talk in this way,
I wish
in
he
a
would
presidential
attack
debate
her.
and deny,
That's the thing, man. Like, I would be attacking her. Ask her about Willie. Ask her about Willie.
Because you did, in fact, lose that election. It leads one to believe
Ask her about Willie.
that perhaps we do not have in the candidate
Ask her
tomorrow
about Willie.
the temperament
If I was Trump, I would ask her about Willie.
or the ability to
I would say, hey,
confuse
who's Willie?
about fact. That's deeply
Ask her.
troubling, and the American people deserve better.
I'll give you 1 minute to respond, Mr. President.
Let me just tell you about world leaders. Viktor Orban, one of the most respected men, they call him a strong man. He's a tough person, smart. Prime Minister of Hungary. They said, why is the whole world blowing up? 3 years ago it wasn't. Why is it blowing up? He said, because you need Trump back as president. They were afraid of him. China was afraid, and I don't like to use the word afraid, but I'm just quoting him. China was afraid of him. North Korea was afraid of him. Look at what's going on with North Korea, by the way. He said Russia was afraid of him. I ended the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, and Biden put it back on day one.
If he
but
brings
he
up
ended
Willie,
the
I'll
XL
die
pipeline.
laughing.
The XL pipeline in our country, he ended that. But he let the Russians build a pipeline going all over Europe and heading into Germany, the biggest pipeline in the world. Look, Viktor Orban said it. He said the most respected, most feared person is Donald Trump. We had no problems when Trump was president. But when this weak, pathetic man that you saw at a debate just a few months ago, that if he weren't in that debate, he'd be running instead of her. She got no votes. He got 14 million votes. What you did, you talk about a threat to democracy. He got 14 million votes, and they threw him out of office. And you know what? I'll give you a little secret. He hates her. He can't stand her. But he got 14 million votes. They threw him out. She got 0 votes. And when she ran, she was the first one to leave because she failed. And now she's running. I don't understand it, but I'm okay with it because
your time is
I think
up.
we're going to do very well.
We've got a lot more to get to.
Turning now to the Israel-Hamas war and the hostages who are still being held, Americans among them. Vice President Harris, in December, you said, quote, Israel has a right to defend itself, but you added, quote, it matters how, saying international humanitarian law must be respected. Israel must do more to protect innocent civilians. You said that 9 months ago. Now an estimated 40,000 Palestinians are dead. Nearly 100 hostages remain. Just last week, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said there's not a deal in the making. President Biden has not been able to break through the stalemate. How would you do it?
Well, let's understand how we got here.
Oh, let's. She's gonna blame. She's gonna blame him.
Hamas, a terrorist organization, slaughtered 1,200 Israelis. Many of them young people who were simply attending a concert. Women were horribly raped. And so absolutely, I said then, I say now, Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. And how it does so matters. Because it is also true, far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. Children, mothers. What we know is that this war must end. It must win.
You've been in the office for 3 years.
And the way it will
4
end
years.
is we need a ceasefire deal and we need the hostages out.
She is the worst,
and so we will
man.
continue
This is
to
hard
work
to watch.
around the clock on that.
Yeah, the
Work
moderators
around
are
the clock,
biased.
also understanding that we must chart a course for a two-state solution. And in that solution, there
Trump
must
about to
be
give it to her.
security for the Israeli people and Israel, and in equal measure for the Palestinians. But the one thing I will assure you always, I will always give Israel the ability to defend itself, in particular as it relates to Iran and any threat that Iran and its proxies pose to Israel. But we must have a two-state solution where we can rebuild Gaza, where the Palestinians have security, self-determination, and
These
the
people have
dignity
been
they so
fighting since
rightly
the beginning
deserve.
of time.
President Trump, how would you negotiate with Netanyahu and also Hamas in order to get the hostages out and prevent the killing of more innocent civilians in Gaza?
If I were president, it would have never started. If I were president, Russia would have never, ever, I know Putin very well, he would have never, and there was no threat of it either, by the way, for 4 years, have gone into Ukraine and killed millions of people when you add it up, far worse than people understand what's going on over there. But when she mentions about Israel, all of a sudden, she hates Israel. She wouldn't even meet with Netanyahu when he went to Congress to make a very important speech. She refused to be there because she was at a sorority party of hers. She wanted to go to the sorority party. She hates Israel. If she's president, I believe that Israel will not exist within 2 years from now. And I've been pretty good at predictions, and I hope I'm wrong about that one. She hates Israel. At the same time, in her own way, she hates the Arab population because the whole place is going to get blown up. Arabs, Jewish people, Israel will be gone. It would have never happened. Iran was broke under Donald Trump. Now Iran has $300 billion because they took off all the sanctions that I had. Iran had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah or any of the 28 different spheres of terror. And they are spheres of terror, horrible terror. They had no money. It was a big story, and you know it. You covered it very well, actually. They had no money for terror. They were broke. Now they're a rich nation, and now what they're doing is they're spreading that money around.
She's the mattress
Look at what's
queen.
happening with the Houthis and
The
Yemen.
Houthis.
Look at what's going on in the Middle East. This would have never happened. I will get that settled and fast, and I'll get the war with Ukraine and Russia ended. If I'm president-elect, I'll get it done before even becoming president.
Vice President Harris, he says you hate Israel.
That's absolutely not true. I have my entire career and life supported Israel and the Israeli people. He knows that. He's trying to, again, divide and distract from the reality, which is it is very well known that Donald Trump is weak and wrong on national security and foreign policy.
That is crazy. We had no wars.
That he admires dictators, wants to be a dictator on day one, according to himself.
Oh, God.
It is well known that he said of Putin that he can do whatever the hell he wants and go into Ukraine. It is well known that he said when Russia went into Ukraine, it was brilliant. It is well known he exchanged love letters with Kim Jong-un, and it is absolutely well known
He has to bring up
that
Willie
these
Lynch.
dictators and
Bring up Willie.
autocrats are rooting for you to be president again
Bring up
because
Willie.
they're so clear. They can manipulate you with flattery and favors. And that is why so many military leaders who you have worked with have told me you are a disgrace. That is why we understand that we have to have a president who is not consistently weak and wrong on national security, including the importance of upholding and respecting in highest regard our military.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
They're the ones, and she's the one that caused it, that's weak on national security by allowing every nation last month for the year, 168 different countries sending people into our country. Their crime rates are way down. Putin endorsed her last week, said, I hope she wins. And I think he meant it, because what he's gotten away with is absolutely incredible. It wouldn't have happened with me.
Nope.
The leaders of other countries think that they're weak and incompetent, and they are. They're grossly incompetent. And I just ask one question. Why does Biden go in and kill the Keystone Pipeline and approve the single biggest deal that Russia's ever made, Nord Stream 2, the biggest pipeline anywhere in the world going to Germany and all over Europe? Because they're weak and they're ineffective. And Biden, by the way, gets paid a lot of money.
Thank you. We have a lot of issues to get to.
We'll be right back with much more of this historic ABC News presidential debate from the National Constitution Center right here in Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
The ABC News presidential debate will continue after.
With your eyes closed, walk into the future.
I didn't know there was commercials.
You will.
I don't like that lady.
To create a utopia.
I don't like nothing about her. I don't like the way she talks. I don't like the way she looks. I don't like the way that she's in office right now. And she ain't doing shit. And yet she's sitting up here lying. And there's fucking idiots out here that actually believe what she says. How is this reality? Yeah, how is this reality? Yeah, no, when Trump said run C-Spot run was her policy. He said she don't have a policy. Her policy is written like C spot run. I'm making shirts that say C spot run.
He said, she said.
No, run spot run, yeah. Run spot run is crazy. Run spot run is crazy. I'm making shirts. I'm making shirts.
Health and healthcare. Energy.
Man, I do not like that lady. I don't like her. He should ask her about being black. He should bring up Willie, though. How do I think he's doing? Yeah, I'm making a C. What is it? Run spot run? Yeah, I'm making them shirts. Yo, he really should take a shot at her and bring up Willie. He should bring up Willie, right? Can y'all hit the screen though? I should at least be at 100,000 likes.
We stand with those who stand for our freedom.
Jesus, I can't get 100,000 likes. Jesus, punch the screen 5 times. Just 5 times. Just hit this. I'm making shirts. Run spot run. You say you on a medium? All right, I got you. Oh my God, man. I can't imagine her being president of this country. Yeah, Trump's winning. I don't care what nobody say. He's bringing up facts. She's talking about. She said he believes in Project 2025. He's already said he doesn't. She said he did accept the January 6th. He did it. She said the Charlottesville thing was his fault. It wasn't. Man, how do y'all look at her and be like, yeah, I like her, but then again, y'all get on this app and complain about white women all day, so I can see why a certain demographic likes her. He needs to stay composed, but he needs to bring up Willie. Wait, what did you say? The animals being eaten is BS? No, it isn't. I seen the videos. It isn't BS. Are you a Democrat? You about to get out of here. Are you a Democrat? Hold on, let me clean this up. It's all over the internet. There's unlike y'all saying that they went to the Hell's Angels went to Aurora where there's no videos. There is multiple videos of illegal immigrants carrying animals around the country. That's a real thing. Yeah, no Democrats. So if you got a thing, no, she said that camel toe. Yeah, I know she said it wasn't a thing. Run spot run. Yeah, I'm getting shirts made. It was on the local news. It was on a lot of news places. Yeah, they're getting paid to lie. That's no doubt about that. That's what I was saying. Oh.
I'm a retired public health nurse.
Man, I didn't know there was a commercial break, though.
Retirement funds allow me to.
I would buy a shirt. Yeah, I'm gonna design it tonight. Run spot run. Wait, hold on. Try to Google animal things. I didn't find anything. They're hiding it. Yeah, go on Twitter and look. Go on Twitter. Can we talk about moderators? No, they're biased. I don't want to talk about them. David Muir is a good reporter or whatever. That other girl is biased towards. She's being soft on Kamala, but she's being hard to Trump. Man, there's videos all over the internet about that. It's easy to find. Haitians absolutely eat cat dogs. I live in Jesus. Yeah, it said it was 90 minutes with 2 breaks. How long? What time is it? It's 10:08. It started at 9 o'clock. So how's it that? Run spot run is what did you say? Already is short on that. Yeah, I'm making shirts. Run spot run.
Here again, David Muir and Lindsay Davis. Welcome back to this historic ABC News presidential debate tonight. We're going to continue here, and I want to turn to the war in Ukraine. We're now 2.5 years into this conflict. Mr. President, it has been the position of the Biden administration.
There's 25 minutes left.
Ukraine from Russia.
Yeah, I'm gonna make some run spot run shirts. I'll produce and ship shirts for you. Nah, I make my own shirts.
He may be emboldened to move even further.
Let me turn it up.
You have said you would solve this war in 24 hours. You said so just before the break tonight. How exactly would you do that? And I want to ask you a very simple question tonight. Do you want Ukraine to win this war?
I want the war to stop. I want to save lives that are being uselessly, people being killed by the millions. It's the millions. It's so much worse than the numbers that you're getting, which are fake numbers. Look, we're in for 250 billion or more, because they don't ask Europe, which is a much bigger beneficiary to getting this thing done than we are. They're in for $150 billion less because Biden and you don't have the courage to ask Europe like I did with NATO. They paid billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars when I said, either you pay up or we're not going to protect you anymore. So that's maybe one of the reasons they don't like me as much as they like weak people. But you take a look at what's happening. We're in for 250 to 275 billion. They're into 100 to 150. They should be forced to equalize. With that being said, I want to get the war settled. I know Zelensky very well, and I know Putin very well. I have a good relationship, and they respect your president, okay? They respect me. They don't respect Biden. How would you respect him? Why? For what reason? He hasn't even made a phone call in 2 years to Putin, hasn't spoken to anybody. They don't even try and get it. That is a war that's dying to be settled. I will get it settled before I even become president. If I win, when I'm president-elect, and what I'll do is I'll speak to one, I'll speak to the other, I'll get them together. That war would have never happened. And in fact, when I saw Putin after I left, unfortunately left because our country has gone to hell. But after I left, when I saw him building up soldiers, he did it after I left, I said, oh, he must be negotiating. It must be a good, strong point of negotiation. Well, it wasn't, because Biden had no idea how to talk to him. He had no idea how to stop it. And now you have millions of people dead, and it's only getting worse, and it could lead to World War III. Don't kid yourself, David. We're playing with World War III, and we have a president that we don't even know if he's... Where is our president? We don't even know if he's a president.
And just to clarify...
They threw him out of a campaign like a dog. We don't even know. Is he our president? But we have a president,
Mr. President,
that doesn't know he's alive.
Just to clarify the question, do you believe it's in the U.S. best interest for Ukraine to win this war, yes or no?
I think it's the U.S. best interest to get this war finished and just get it done.
Right,
negotiate a deal, because we have to stop all of these human lives from being destroyed.
I want to take this to Vice President Harris. I want to get your thoughts on support for Ukraine in this moment, but also, as Commander-in-Chief, if elected, how would you deal with Vladimir Putin, and would it be any different from what we're seeing from President Biden?
Sanctions. She's going to say sanctions.
It's important to remind the former president, you're not running against Joe Biden, you're running against me. I believe the reason that Donald Trump says that this war would be over within 24 hours is because he would just give it up. And that's not who we are as Americans. Let's understand what happened here.
What is she talking about?
I met with Zelensky a few days before Russia invaded.
I'm terrified.
Tried through force to change territorial boundaries, to defy one of the most important international rules and norms, which is the importance of sovereignty and territorial integrity.
You're running against
me. And I met with President Zelensky. I shared with him American intelligence about how he could defend himself. Days later, I went to NATO's eastern flank, to Poland and Romania. And through the work that I and others did, we brought 50 countries together to support Ukraine in its righteous defense. And because of our support, because of the air defense, the ammunition, the artillery, the javelins, the Abrams tanks that we have provided, Ukraine stands as an independent and free country. If Donald Trump were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now. And understand what that would mean, because Putin's agenda is not just about Ukraine. Understand why the European allies and our NATO allies are so thankful that you are no longer president, and that we understand the importance of the greatest military alliance the world has ever known, which is NATO, and what we have done to preserve the ability of Zelensky and the Ukrainians to fight for their independence. Otherwise, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv with his eyes on the rest of Europe, starting with Poland. And why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans right here in Pennsylvania how quickly you would give up for the sake of favor and what you think is a friendship with what is known to be a dictator who would eat you for lunch.
Vice President Harris, thank you. We've heard from both of you on Ukraine tonight. Afghanistan came up in the last hour. I wanted her to respond to something you said earlier, and I'll give you a minute here.
Putin would be sitting in Moscow, and he wouldn't have lost 300,000 men and women, but he would have been sitting in Moscow Quiet, please. He's been sitting in Moscow, much happier than he is right now.
Quiet,
But
please.
eventually, you know, he's got a thing that other people don't have. He's got nuclear weapons. They don't ever talk about that. He's got nuclear weapons. Nobody ever thinks about that. And eventually, maybe he'll use them, and maybe he hasn't been that threatening, but he does have that. Something we don't even like to talk about. Nobody likes to talk about it. But just so you understand, they sent her to negotiate peace before this war started. 3 days later, he went in and he started the war because everything they said was weak and stupid. They said the wrong things. That war should have never started. She was the emissary. They sent her in to negotiate with Zelensky and Putin, and she did. And the war started 3 days later. And that's the kind of talent we have with her. She's worse than Biden. In my opinion, I think he's the worst president in the history of our country. She goes down as the worst vice president in the history of our country. But let me tell you something. She is a horrible negotiator. They sent her in to negotiate. As soon as they left, Putin did the invasion.
President Trump, thank you. You did bring up something. You said she went to negotiate with Vladimir Putin. Vice President Harris, have you ever met Vladimir Putin? Can you clarify tonight?
Yet again, I said at the beginning of this debate, you're going to hear a bunch of lies coming from this fellow. And that is another one. When I went to meet with President Zelensky, I've now met with him over 5 times.
And ain't solved shit.
It has been about standing as America always should. As a leader, upholding international
Answer the
rules
fucking
and norms.
question.
As a leader,
Answer
who
the
shows
question.
strength, understanding that the
Answer
alliances
the
we have around
question.
the world are dependent on our ability to look out for our friends and not favor our enemies because you adore strongmen instead of caring about democracy. And that is very much what is at stake here. The President of the United States is Commander-in-Chief. And the American people have a right to rely on a president who understands the significance of America's role and responsibility in terms of ensuring that there is stability and ensuring we stand up for our principles and not sell them for the benefit of personal flattery.
We talked about Ukraine and Vladimir Putin. I do want to talk about Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of this debate. I want to move on to Afghanistan.
Said Trump did the most amazing thing I've ever seen. He got these countries, the 28 countries at the time, to pay up. He said, I've never seen. He's the head of NATO. He said, I've never seen. For years, we were paying almost all of NATO. We were being ripped off by European nations, both on trade and on NATO. I got them to pay up by saying one of the statements you made before, if you don't pay, we're not going to protect you. Otherwise, we would have never gotten it. He said it was one of the most incredible jobs that he's ever seen done.
Thank you. I want to turn to Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of the debate, and we witnessed a poignant moment today on Capitol Hill, honoring the soldiers who died in the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan. I do want to ask the Vice President, do you believe you bear any responsibility in the way that withdrawal played out?
Well, I will tell you, I agreed with President Biden's decision to pull out of Afghanistan. 4 presidents said they would, and Joe Biden did. And as a result, America's taxpayers are not paying the $300 million a day we were paying for that endless war. And as of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world, the first time this century. But let's understand how we got to where we are. Donald Trump, when he was president, negotiated one of the weakest deals you can imagine. He calls himself a deal maker. Even his national security advisor said it was a weak, terrible deal. And here's how it went down. He bypassed the Afghan government. He negotiated directly with a terrorist organization called the Taliban. The negotiation involved the Taliban getting 5,000 Taliban terrorists released. And get this, and the president at the time invited the Taliban to Camp David, a place of storied significance for us as Americans, a place where we honor the importance of American diplomacy, where we invite and receive respected world leaders. And this former president, as president, invited them to
Camp David because he does not again appreciate the role and responsibility of the President of the United States to be commander-in-chief with a level of respect. And this gets back to the point of how he has consistently disparaged and demeaned members of our military, fallen soldiers, and the work that we must do to uphold the strength and the respect of the United States of America around the world.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, your response to her saying that you began the negotiations with the Taliban.
So, if you take a look at that period of time, the Taliban was killing our soldiers, a lot of them, with snipers. And I got involved with the Taliban because the Taliban was doing the killing. That's the fighting force within Afghanistan. They don't bother doing that because, you know, they deal with the wrong people all the time. But I got involved. And Abdul is the head of the Taliban. He is still the head of the Taliban. And I told Abdul, don't do it anymore. You do it anymore, you're going to have problems. And he said, why do you send me a picture of my house? I said, you're going to have to figure that out, Abdul. And for 18 months, we had nobody killed.
You're going to have to figure that out, Abdul. Alhamdulillah.
The reason it was good, it was, we were getting out.
Figure that out, Abdul.
Faster than that, but we wouldn't have lost the soldiers. We wouldn't have left many Americans behind. And we wouldn't have left $85 billion worth of brand new, beautiful military equipment behind. And just to finish, they blew it. The agreement said you have to do this, and they didn't do it. They didn't do it. The agreement was terminated by us because they didn't do what they were supposed to do.
I want to move
and these people did the worst withdrawal.
Yo, get it to 10,
in my
to
opinion,
10,
the
100,000.
most embarrassing moment
Hit
in the
the
history of
screen.
our country. And by the way, that's why Russia attacked Ukraine, because they saw how incompetent she
It's
and her
Obama
boss
with a
are.
mask on.
President Trump, thank you. I want to move on now to race and politics in this
Yeah,
country.
let's get there.
Mr. President, you recently said of Vice President Harris, quote, I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago.
She isn't
when
black.
she happened to turn black.
She isn't
and now
black.
she wants to be known as black.
She isn't.
I want to ask a bigger picture question here tonight. Why do you believe it's appropriate to weigh in on the racial identity of
Because
your opponent?
we live in
I
America.
don't care. I don't care what she is. I don't care. You make a big deal out of something. I couldn't care less. Whatever she wants to be is okay with me.
But those were your words.
I don't know. I mean, all I can say is I read where she was not black, that she put out, and I'll say that. And then I read that she was black, and that's okay. Either one was okay with me. That's up to her. That's up to her.
Vice President Harris, your thoughts on this?
I think it's, I mean, honestly, I think it's a tragedy that we have someone who wants to be president who has consistently, over the course of his career, attempted to use race to divide the American people.
No, yeah.
You know, I do believe that the vast majority of us know that we have so much more in common than what separates us, and we don't want
What is she talking about?
this kind of approach that is just constantly trying to divide us, and especially by race. And let's remember how Donald Trump started. He was he owned buildings, and he was investigated because he refused to rent property to black families. Let's remember, this is the same individual
they probably couldn't afford it.
Took out a full-page ad in the New York Times calling for the execution.
Everybody did.
Of 5.
Everybody did. Everybody did.
and
This is word salad. Everyone did. The whole country thought they were guilty. He's not the only one.
Full-page ad.
He's not the only one.
Execution.
He's not the only one.
Individual
He's
who
not.
spread birther lies about the first black president of the United States.
You should. He's Kenyan.
And I think the American
Barry's
people
Kenyan.
want better than that.
No.
Want better than this.
Not you.
Want someone who understands, as I do, I travel our country. We see in each other
Word salad.
a friend. We see in each other a neighbor.
Oh
we
my
don't
God,
want
man.
a leader who is constantly trying to have Americans point their fingers at each other.
Oh my
I meet
God.
with people
What is
all
she
the
talking
time
about?
who tell me, can we please just have discourse about how we're going to invest in the aspirations and the ambitions and the dreams of the American people?
Oh my
Knowing that
God.
regardless
This is some
of
bullshit.
people's
What
color
race are
or
you?
the language their
What
grandmother
race
speaks,
are you?
we all have the same dreams
Where are you
and
from?
aspirations
Where
and
your
want
people
a president who invest
Where your
in
people
those,
from?
not in hate and division.
Oh my
Vice President
God.
Harris, thank you. Lindsay?
President Trump, this is now your third time.
This is the most divisive presidency in the history of our country. There's never been anything like it. They're destroying our country, and they come up with things like what she just said. Going back many, many years, when a lot of people, including Mayor Bloomberg, agreed with me on the Central Park Five, they admitted, they said, they pled guilty. And I said, well, if they pled guilty, they badly hurt a person, killed a person ultimately.
Yes, the whole
And if
world
pled
thought they were
then
guilty.
we're not guilty. But this is a person that has to stretch back years, 40, 50 years ago, because there's nothing now. I built one of the greatest economies in the history of the world, and I'm going to build it again. It's going to be bigger, better, and stronger. But they're destroying our economy. They have no idea what a good economy is. Their oil policies, every single policy. And remember this, she is Biden. You know, she's trying to get away from Biden. I don't know the gentleman, she says. She is Biden. The worst inflation we've ever had, a horrible economy because inflation has made it so bad that she can't get away with that.
Thank you. Your time's up.
I want to respond to that, though. I want to just respond briefly. Clearly, I am not Joe Biden, and I am certainly not Donald Trump. And what I do offer is a new generation of leadership for our country.
No, you don't.
One who believes in what is possible. One who brings
No.
a sense of optimism.
Yeah, they're biased.
About what we can do.
It's
instead
ABC,
of
though.
always disparaging the American people. I believe in what we can do to strengthen our small businesses, which is why I have a plan. Let's talk about our plans and let's compare the plans. I have a plan.
No,
to
you don't.
give startup businesses $50,000 tax deduction, to pursue their ambitions, their innovation, their ideas.
I have
their
a
hard
plan.
work.
It's like I have a dream.
$6,000.
I have a plan. It's like I have a
For
dream.
the first year of your child's life.
What?
To help you in that
Where's the
most
money
critical
come
stage of your
from?
child's development. I have a plan.
I have a
that is about
dream.
allowing people
I
to be
have
able
a
to
dream.
pursue
She's gonna say it
what
again.
has been
Watch.
fleeting
She's gonna
in
say it
terms of
again.
the American dream.
I have
by
a dream.
offering a
I have a
down
dream.
payment of $25,000 down payment assistance.
Where's this
for
money
first-time
come from?
home buyers.
Where's this money come
That's the
from?
kind of conversation I believe,
I
David,
have a
that
dream.
people really want tonight, as opposed to a conversation that is constantly about belittling and name calling.
Ugh.
Let's turn the page.
Name calling. She's called names all night long.
President Trump, we have to move on. President Trump.
Let's turn to policy, please.
To defund the police. She has a plan to confiscate everybody's gun.
President Trump,
she
we
has
do
a
have to
plan
move
to
on to
not
other
allow
issues.
fracking in Pennsylvania or anywhere else.
That's her plan.
That's what her plan is
Yep,
until
yep.
just recently.
I just need to respond. No, the former president has said something twice that I need to respond to.
I'm sorry. We're
I
going
just need
to
to
move on,
respond
Vice
one
President
time
Harris.
to what he has
President
said
Trump, this
multiple
is now your third time running for president. You have long vowed to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. You have failed to accomplish that. You now say you're going to keep Obamacare, quote, unless we can do something much better. Last month you said, quote, we're working on it. So tonight, 9 years after you first started running, do you have a plan, and can you tell us what it is?
Obamacare was lousy health care. Always was. It's not very good today. And what I said, that if we come up with something, and we are working on things, we're going to do it and we're going to replace it. But remember this. I inherited Obamacare because Democrats wouldn't change it. They wouldn't vote for it. They were unanimous. They wouldn't vote to change it. If they would have done that, we would have had a much better plan than Obamacare. But the
Obamacare is a
Democrats
joke.
came up. They wouldn't vote for it. I had a choice to make when I was president. Do I save it and make it as
It's
good as
at
it can be?
100,000.
Never
Thank
going to be
y'all.
great. Or do I let it rot? And I felt I had an obligation, even though politically it would have been good to just let it rot and let it go away. I
It doesn't
decided,
cover
and I told my
anything.
people, the top people, and they're very good people. I have a lot of good people in that administration. We read about the bad ones. We had some real bad ones too, and so do they. They have really bad ones. The difference is they don't get rid of them. But let me just explain. I had a choice.
They keep
to make.
them hired.
Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, or do I let it rot? And I saved it. I did the right thing. But it's still never going to be great, and it's too expensive for people. And what we will do is we're looking at different plans. If we can come up with a plan that's going to cost our people, our population, less money and be better health care than Obamacare, then I would absolutely do it. But until then, I'd run it as good as it can be run.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan?
I have concepts of a plan. I'm not president right now. But if we come up with something, I would only change it
What
if
is
we
her
come
plan?
up with
I
something
hate her
that's
face,
better
man.
and less
She
expensive.
got one of them
And there
punchable
are
faces.
concepts and options we have
By a woman, though,
to
not
do
by a
that.
man.
And you'll be hearing about it in the not too distant future.
Vice President Harris, in 2017, you supported Bernie Sanders' proposal to do away with private insurance and create a government-run healthcare system. 2 years later, you proposed a plan that included a private insurance option. What is your plan today?
Well, first of all, I absolutely support, and over the last 4 years as vice president, private healthcare options. But what we need to do is maintain and grow the Affordable Care Act. But I'll get to that, Lindsay. I just need to respond to a previous point that the former president has made. I've made very clear my position on fracking. And then this business about taking everyone's guns away. Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away. So stop with the continuous lying about this stuff. As it relates to the Affordable Care Act, understand, just look at the history of where people stand.
You hear that, Democrat? She wants to keep guns.
60 times he tried to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. 60 times. I was a senator at the time when I will never forget the early morning hours when it was up for a vote in the United States Senate. And the late, great John McCain, who you have disparaged as being you don't like
it's
him,
funny
you
how they
said
love
at the
John
time
McCain
because
now.
he got caught. He was an American hero. The late, great John McCain, I will never forget that night, walked onto the Senate floor and said, "No, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't get rid of the Affordable Care Act. You have no plan." And what the Affordable Care Act has done is eliminate the ability of insurance companies to deny people with pre-existing conditions. I don't have
And
to tell
that's
people
why we
Washington,
pay
you
so
remember what
much
that was
money
like?
right now.
Remember
There should
when
be
an insurance
other
company could
avenues.
deny
That's why insurance is so high
if a
right
child
now.
had asthma, if someone was a breast cancer survivor, if a grandparent had diabetes, and thankfully,
They don't
as I've
understand
been
what's
vice
going
president,
on.
and we over the last
She
4
don't
years have
understand what's
strengthened the
going
Affordable Care Act. We have allowed for
She
the first
has
time
no
Medicare to
clue
negotiate drug
what's
prices
going
on behalf of you, the American people. Donald Trump said he was going to allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices. He never did. We did. And now we have capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. Since I've been vice president, we have capped the cost of prescription medication for seniors at $2,000 a year. And when I am president, we will do that for all people, understanding that the value I
What
bring
is
to
she
this
talking about?
is that access to health care should be a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it. And the plan has to be to strengthen the Affordable
Oh
Care
my
Act,
God,
not
this
get rid
is
of it.
so fucking
That's the roll up
bullshit.
in terms of where Donald Trump stands on that.
I want to move to an issue that's important for a
She
lot
made a
of
mistake. And number one, John McCain fought Obamacare for 10 years. But it wasn't only him. It were all of the Democrats that kept it going. And you know what? We can do much better than Obamacare, much less money. But she won't improve private insurance for people, private medical insurance. That's another thing she doesn't want to get.
President
People are
Trump-
paying privately for insurance that have worked hard and made money, and they want to have private. She wants everybody to be on government insurance where you wait 6 months for an operation that you need immediately.
President Trump, thank you. We have another issue that we'd like to get to that's important for a number of Americans, in particular younger voters, and that's climate change. President Trump, with regard to the environment, you say that we have to have clean air and clean water. Vice President Harris, you call climate change an existential threat. The question to you both tonight is, what would you do to fight climate change? And Vice President Harris, we'll start with you. 1 minute for you each.
Well, the former president had said that climate change is a hoax. And what we know is that it is very real. You ask anyone who lives in a state who has experienced these extreme weather occurrences, who now is either being denied home insurance or is being jacked up. You ask anybody who has been the victim of what that means in terms of losing their home, having nowhere to go. We know that we can actually deal with this issue. The young people of America care deeply about this issue. And I am proud that as vice president over the last 4 years, we have invested $1 trillion in a clean energy economy, while we have also increased domestic gas production, to
So what is
historic
she
levels.
talking about?
We have created over 800,000 new manufacturing jobs while I have been vice president.
is she talking
We have
about?
invested in clean energy to the point that we are opening up factories around the world. Donald Trump said he was going to create manufacturing jobs. He lost manufacturing jobs. And I'm also proud to have the endorsement of the United Auto Workers and Sean Fain, who also know that part of building a clean energy economy includes investing in American-made products,
Imagine
American
a Democrat
automobiles. It includes
invested in American
growing
products.
what we can do around American manufacturing and
Oh
opening
my
up auto
God.
plants, not closing them like happened under Donald Trump.
Vice President Harris, thank
She's
you.
It
boring.
didn't happen under Donald Trump. Let me just tell you, they lost 10,000 manufacturing jobs this last month. It's going, they're all leaving. They're building big auto plants in Mexico, in many cases owned by China. They're building these massive plants, and they think they're going to sell their cars into the United States because of these people. What they have given to China is unbelievable. But we're not going to let that. We'll put tariffs on those cars so they can't come into our country, because they will kill the United Auto Workers and any auto worker, whether it's in Detroit or South Carolina or any other place. What they've done to business and manufacturing in this country is horrible. We have nothing because they refuse. You know, Biden doesn't go after people because supposedly China paid him millions of dollars. He's afraid to do it. Between him and his son, they get all this money from Ukraine. They get all this money from all of these different countries. And then you wonder, why is he so loyal to this one, that one, Ukraine, China? Why is he? Why did he get $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow's wife? Why did she pay him $3.5 million? This is a crooked administration, and they're selling our country down the tubes.
President Trump, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with closing statements from both of our candidates. An historic night as
Trump
ABC News
winning
presidential
this. I don't
debate
care what none of
from
y'all say.
Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
I don't care what none of y'all say. Yo, hit the send us. Yo, hit the screen. Send a donation.
The ABC News
I'm begging.
presidential debate will continue after this.
Yo, let me turn it down.
The people have voted. Reagan is a hit.
Tear down that wall. Yo, hit the screen. Hit the screen. Yo, I can't stand the Kamala Harris, man. I don't know how after this y'all vote for her. She didn't got on her knee. Yeah, we know Kamala did. Yeah. Yo, hit the screen. Yo, who's trying to come in here?
Reagan. See it now in theaters. PG-13.
Yo, how's it going?
Hey, oh my gosh,
Who
that
you
was
think's winning the debate?
what was that?
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yo, who's trying to come in here? Who you think's winning the debate? Who you think's winning the debate?
Yo, why the freak? I'm not gonna say that word on live, but
Hey, I can't hear anybody.
can you?
What is it? My phone? Oh, it's my phone. I'm sorry. Hold on. Yo, who do you think's winning the debate?
Okay, can you hear me now?
I can hear.
Oh, that was wild. I listen, Trump all the way, but that was rough.
Hold on.
That was rough.
All right, go ahead.
I was just say Trump all the way, but that was rough. I would just wish it was more of a smear campaign than anything.
That's what I don't understand. Thank you. That's what I don't understand. The fact of the matter is, Trump is answering questions he's already answered before. Sorry, lovely Rose. I don't know why it's not letting me turn your microphone on. I don't understand how you can be a Democrat at this point. Let me try again, lovely Rose. All right, can you hear me?
Yeah, I was echoing, so I dropped out the app.
Nah, that's cool. I think it was I put mute on the mic. But I don't understand how anybody can vote for Kamala. Tell me you're not voting for Kamala.
No, absolutely. I am like, the moderators are so biased. It's like every time.
So you have to actually understand that the ABC is going to lean towards what Disney wants and what everyone else wants. But they're going to be biased. I mean, just like if it was on Fox, they would lean heavy against Kamala. But I do think they're not asking her to answer the questions where they can follow up and answer the questions. But I appreciate you clicking on me. What do you think's going on in the debate?
Completely believe Trump is winning this. I just can't believe how anybody is actually choosing her. It's mind-boggling.
I just can't believe that they live on Earth, the same planet I live on.
Right?
I can't believe that people live on Earth and they actually think that like she has a policy. What if he? I know it was told to Trump. Trump was told not to attack her. You agree? Hold on, look here. You agree? Trump was told not to attack her, right? He was told not to attack her. I don't care about the angle. He was told not to attack her, right? He had to have been told, don't attack her, right? Like, because I feel like he's being soft because she's a woman. Where like, remember how he was with Biden? Yeah, like I think he was told if you attack her, they're gonna say you hate women. If you attack her, they're gonna feel like this. If you attack her, this like. I think like that's yeah, like they will use that against him, and there's no doubt in my mind that why the only attacks he's given is the attacks on Biden. He's not attacking her directly because then they'll take that and be like, see, he's a misogynist, he's a narcissist, he's all this stuff, and that's sad because it isn't because them other world leaders ain't going to look at she's jabbed at him so many times, and yet he has not taken one shot at her. He almost did once, but I just think it's messed up that he can't attack her the way that she's attacking him. Yeah, and the name calling, he ain't call her one name.
David Muir and Lindsay Davis. Welcome back tonight. The time has come for closing statements, and Vice President Harris, we begin with you.
So I think you've heard tonight two very different visions for our country.
Oh my God.
One that is focused on the future.
She thinks she said something.
And the other that is focused on the past. And an attempt to take us backward.
Backwards where?
But we're not going back.
Yes, we're going back where?
I believe that the American people know we all have so much more in common than what
Where are they
separates
going
us.
back?
And
Back
we can
to
chart a new way forward. And a vision of that includes having a plan. Understanding the aspirations, the dreams, the hopes, the ambition of the American people, which is why I intend to create an opportunity economy, investing in small businesses, in new families, in what we can do around protecting seniors, what we can do that is about giving hardworking folks a break and bringing down the cost of living. I believe in what we can do together. That is
why hasn't she done that the past 4 years?
Standing in the world and ensuring that we have the respect.
Why y'all keep reminding me I can get kicked?
Including respecting our military and ensuring we have the most lethal fighting force in the world. I will be a president that will protect our fundamental rights and freedoms, including the right of a woman to make decisions about her own body and not have her government tell her what to do.
They love the unaliving
as a
of babies.
prosecutor. I was a DA, I was an attorney general.
We know you were a DA.
And now vice president. I've only had one client, the people.
The people. Black men in California will tell you.
Or a witness, are you a Republican or a Democrat?
I'm sure.
The only thing I ever ask them, are you okay?
No.
And that's the kind of president we need. Someone who cares about you and is not putting themselves first. I intend to be a president for all Americans and focus on what we can do over the next 10 and 20 years to build back up our country by investing right now in you, the American people.
Let's go, Trump.
Harris,
let's hear Trump.
Thank you, President Trump.
So she just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years. They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it?
Yeah.
She should leave right now, go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do, but you haven't done it, and you won't do it because you believe in things that the American people don't believe in. You believe in things like we're not going to frack, we're not going to take fossil fuel, we're not going to do things that are going to make this country strong, whether you like it or not. Germany tried that, and within 1 year they were back to building normal energy plants. We're not ready for it. We can't sacrifice our country for the sake of bad vision. But I just ask one simple question. Why didn't she do it? We're a failing nation. We're a nation that's in serious decline. We're being laughed at all over the world. All over the world they're laughed. I know the leaders very well. They're coming to see me. They call me. We're laughed at all over the world. They don't understand what happened to us as a nation. We're not a leader. We don't have any idea what's going on. We have wars going on in the Middle East. We have wars going on with Russia and Ukraine. We're going to end up in a third world war, and it'll be a war like no other because of nuclear weapons, the power of weaponry. I rebuilt our entire military. She gave a lot of it away to the Taliban. She gave it to Afghanistan. What these people have done to our country, and maybe toughest of all, is allowing millions of people to come into our country. Many of them are criminals, and they're destroying our country. The worst president, the worst vice president in the history of our country.
President Trump,
Yes.
thank you. And that is our
Yes.
ABC News presidential debate
Yes.
from here in Philadelphia.
All
at the
Trump
National
care about is
Constitution
America,
Center.
boy.
I'm Lindsay Davis.
And I'm David Muir. Thank you for watching here in the U.S. and all over the world, and from all of us here at ABC News. Good night.
All right, that is a wrap.
Trump won.
Presidential debate.
Trump won.
now
See spot
in the
run.
books.
Run spot run.
For post-debate analysis, Britt Hume,
Y'all have a
David
good
Bruno,
night.
Harold Ford Jr., Laura